Let's have a quick look at the fonts used here. Actually, none of the fonts are specified yet, and that's why, with the reset style sheet in place, my header fonts are the same size as my paragraph fonts. So let's change that because I think we have a bunch of different things going on here. I'm just going to inspect around so I can see what's what, and it looks like this is an H2, for example. The H1 is probably up here and is hidden, display none. So we know we have H2s, we have some P's, we have some links. What are these? These are also H2s. Okay, so let me at least clean up the H2s so that they look a little bit more like headings. To follow the book's logic here, we're gonna set a default font size on the body and then go from that in relative units. So here's what I mean. If you come from a font spec like that has something like this, font size 16 pixels. Let's see that in the browser first of all. Here we are with the font size of 16 pixels. Oh, nothing changed. Why? Because that is the default font size for the browsers. So if you say nothing, it defaults to 16 pixels. However, I don't really want to put a pixel font in here because I want to set my fonts to be relative. So, but I'm going to leave that here for the moment. Often you will get a specification document, especially for large companies, that specifies what even down to the font, what the family and the size have to be for various parts of your design. Of course, this may take some education on your part and to explain to people that they don't really have as much control over things like font size on the web as they do in print. But the proportions will be important. So if I say, for example, that the regular old font size is 16 pixels, and I want the H2 font size to be 24 pixels, and this is what this looks like. Yeah, so a bit more like headings. Okay, so how do I make that play better in relative units? Assuming a 16 pixel default font size, we will now set the font size to something like medium. And then in parentheses, I'm just going to put what that was. Okay. Now instead of 24, I do a little math. 24 divided by my default, which was 16, is that, times 100, equals 150% of the 16 pixels. You have a choice in fonts. Well, you have a choice in padding and margin too, but it means something different. In Fontland, I can either say 150% or I can say 1.5 EM. You probably remember this from IntroWeb. So either one works. 150% would be 24 pixels divided by 16. Or I can say 1.5 EM, and that would be the same thing. So this should give us this very similar effect to what we had going on before, like so. No change, right? Okay. If then I decide later, or I read the specs later and it looks like they want me to have a smaller or bigger font, or if a user has their own kind of font size requirements, I might say font size small. The whole thing has now resized proportionally because I have not used any specific pixel sizes. I can just change it once on the body. So this is the crux of font sizes when you're thinking about easy resizing. Do it once on the body in a default size and then size everything else proportionally or with M's.